Hello, biology students. Today we're going to be talking about cells, and specifically the cell theory. So when we talk about the cell theory, there were a bunch of scientists that were involved in discovering cells. For the purposes of our class, oftentimes you'll see their scary names in questions, but you don't have to memorize what each of these different scientists did. So we're going to not focus on the scientists for these outside of class notes, and instead we will focus on the actual cell theory itself. Because there's too many scientists. So what is a theory anyways, if we're going to talk about cell theory? Well, a theory officially is a well-tested explanation that unifies a broad range of observations. There's lots of examples of theory, such as germ theory, the cell theory, gravitational theory, and it's not like we would dispute or argue that things fall down. That's something that we're rather sure about. So anything that is such called a theory is really strongly backed in science. So this very, very well tested, that part's important. That is compared to something that's a hypothesis, which is an answer to an experimental question, but it is currently being tested. It's not as well backed. So a theory is a lot more stronger. We almost think of theories like scientific laws. So hypothesis, when we think about experiments, we'll see them in the future. A lot of times they're written as if-then statements. Let's get going and learning the cell theory now. So the first part of the cell theory is all living things are made up of one or more cells, and that the cell is the basic unit of structure. For your notes, this is in the form of a big chart. Your job is to either write the definition or write examples. All right? So for instance, there are cells that are just one all by themselves, and we call those unicellular, things like bacteria. Or we could have really complex multicellular things like this baboon or us humans or many plants. But either way, all living things are made up of cells, at least one, if not more. That's what this first part is. Many cells, or just one. But they're the building blocks of living things. So if we were to relate this back to Hog Racer, our 8 characteristics of life, which thing sounds most similar? C, cells, because this is a cell theory. Next, the cell is the basic unit of function for multi and single-celled organisms. Well, function is all about job. So cells determine the job of something. So for instance, our muscle cells work really hard together, and the types of shape of a cell determine which exact type of muscle cell it is. So cardiac muscles are a little different shaped than skeletal muscles, which are a little different shaped than smooth muscles, and those are in different parts of our body. These different shapes make for different jobs, and they will be in different parts of our organ systems. So this is all about how we are organized, right? Remember, organized was functions when we did Hog Racer earlier in the year. And don't worry, we're going to practice this in class. Last but not least, we have cells come from other cells. They don't just pop out of nowhere. So for instance, a cell will reproduce. If you cut your knee, which is no fun, your cells will make more cells to heal yourself. All right, cells come from other cells, so the nearby cells near the cut will actually reproduce and heal you. Some cells that are unicellular and they're their own organism, the way they make babies is just by multiplying. So that's how they literally reproduce and make babies. So these are the different parts of the cell theory. Again, we'll practice this in class, but scientists have studied this, and that is why we call it a theory. All right, great job, guys. Oops, and last but not least, I forgot. We have to add what letter of Hog Racer should work for cells from other cells. We could say growth, or we could say R, reproduce. I'd accept either. All right, now for real, that was the end. Great job, guys.